Welcome back to That Rugby podcast with myself, Luke, and my main man, Hughesy.
G'day.
Tough weekend for us both in
Yes.
the rugby world. Heartbreak for me, I guess. Expectations met by you.
Yeah.
But yeah, how are you feeling on this weekend or this weekday?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a miracle for the Waratahs to win. Obviously, that didn't happen. Sad for Hoops' career to finish on a note like that, but that's sort of what was to be expected, I guess, with how the Waratahs have played out this year. I guess it's a bit like, for me, and this might be a bit over the top, it's like when your dog's really old and you know that its time's coming soon. And so you've had a chance to sort of process the emotions a bit, and yeah, there might be a chance for an 11th hour miracle recovery, but when it doesn't happen, you're not that shocked. And it's not as bad, I guess, if it's suddenly come out of the blue and you're not expecting it. But I guess the good thing is we're still going to see Hoops playing rugby. He hasn't retired from Rugby Australia, so he still could be representing the Wallabies past this World Cup. And I believe Sevens is the next pathway for him. So, a little bit lesser intensity for him in terms of the mental load. And, I wouldn't really know how to compare them physically, but I think because the games are shorter, that's probably going to help Hooper out as well. Concentrating in those bursts, I think will be really good for his style of game. And then, just for the Waratah season overall, look, again, sort of disappointing, but with bright signs for the future. I think you've got some really good, young, talented pieces there. Jorgensen going out, you could really see the drop in quality in the Waratahs actually with Jorgensen out, which is a sign of what a good player he is. Fekete out as well. Once Karevi I think this World Cup, Karevi's got his hand firmly on the 12 jersey, but if he goes down injured, Fekete is a more than adequate replacement. And in the next World Cup, that 12 jersey could really belong to him. Parisi is a great outside centre as well. Mark is a great winger as well. You bring Suali'i in as well. I think really the piece that they're missing is going to be a 10, and whether that's Ben Donaldson staying on or Tane Edmed further developing will be really interesting to see out of the Waratahs camp. Jakey Gordon, we know he's a rugby player, and he's a firm New South Welshman, and he doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. So, yeah, look, there's some pieces there in the backs, even in the forwards. Mahe Vailanu is really coming into his own. Sort of a bit more of an experienced player, but just he's sort of, it's like Parecki, right? Parecki hasn't really hit his stride until his late 20s. Vailanu, I believe, is 26, something like that.
I was going to say 26 as well.
Mahe Vailanu. Look at that, 26. Look at that, straight off the top. Straight off the top of the dome, right? It's really, for me, second row and first five is the position need for the Waratahs, which is a microcosm of the macro that is Australian rugby, I guess.
You're not wrong, yeah. If you look at the Wallabies, that's exactly the same spot you're talking about there. We'll get into the quarterfinal games quickly. Let's start with your Tahs, who scored the first try and then just got ran off the field by the Blues, who are looking red hot about now.
Look, no, I mean, we've already said sort of what we need to say about this game. I'm happy if we just move past it, to be honest, because there's not much positive to take out of it.
Second game was the Chiefs versus the Reds, which I would say was a good game. The Reds put their hands up again, travelling to Hamilton. Seemed like a sweet spot for them, but not enough to get over the line against a good Chiefs team, I would say. If there's anything I take away from this weekend, it's the Chiefs know how to win. They know how to win. That was big, I thought, on the weekend. Sometimes, especially in these games, you just got to win ugly.
Yeah, 100%. And it was just, I have to say, the Reds showed a lot of spirit for playing in New Zealand. Brad Thorne knowing he's not going to be there next year and everything like that. For a squad that wasn't expected to do anything and has really had quite a disappointing season, not many positives to take away from it. This game was a very big positive. Vunivalu, I think, really he sort of fell out of favour with Rennie last year for Wallabies squad contention. He's really putting his hand up to be another Wallabies winger. I mean, look, Eddie Jones, he's got a wealth of choices for his wingers. You've got Corabetti for sure on one wing, But then you've got, Corey Toole is putting his hand up to be an explosive weapon. You've got Vunivalu, right? Nwanga-Nitawase, right? And I'm sure there's many others that I'm forgetting and not giving their due here. Andrew Kellaway, there's so many, Australian wing right now might be one of the deepest positions we have.
Totally. And yeah, Vunivalu definitely the past few weeks has put his hand up and shown what he's capable of, and earned that re-signing, I think, and given a few more years to show his class. Then we'll move on to the Crusaders versus the Druda. Now, we both obviously predicted a Druda victory, but we came crashing back down to earth.
Yeah. Look, the Druda, they weren't big enough for the moment, I guess. You're playing in Christchurch. Very few teams are. It is. They didn't play in Suva. If they played in Suva, it would have been a different story.
Exactly.
If only they could have channeled that energy, but spirits don't travel over water, apparently. So
no, they do not.
Is what it is, that one.
I think, it was big. The fact that the way they were beaten is obviously disappointing, but it'll be a great experience for them, and it shows how important that home field advantage is to them. So I think if they want to definitely take out this comp eventually, they'll need to improve on their away performances.
If they top 4 next year, then they can take out a home finals game as well.
Exactly.
So it's just building blocks, my friend. Every year getting better.
Totally.
So one day we're going to be like, why do we support the Dura so much early on? They're just winning this competition every single year.
I hate them.
Suva is impossible to win, setting all kind of Super Rugby records. Why have we done this to ourselves?
Yep. Last game, Brumbies versus Canes. Robbed, cheated, heart ripped out. I could go
see
on.
that you posted from the Sports Boost account. A very
I let
strong
my
opinion.
emotions get better in myself, and I said, "Fuck it, we were robbed," and I got a fair few messages about it. Now, I'm prefacing this because I said this in my wrap up that I think just went out. It was the right call. It was the right call, in my opinion, from the referee. If you can't see the ball grounded, you can't give it a try.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if there was enough evidence to overturn it as a TMO. Like, I would have been annoyed, on the other hand, if a TMO had overturned that for a Brumbies try to win the game type thing like that.
I've reviewed the footage, right, from the YouTube highlights. I've reviewed the footage. There's nothing definitive in it for me. Maybe YouTube doesn't show enough angles, right? But there's nothing in
all
there.
The angles in the game were the exact same, probably, than you saw, because it wasn't.
There's nothing that I could see where it's like, okay, the ball definitely touched the ground. There's no way, because it went up as no try, there's no way in my mind to erase the doubt that hand was under it when it came in, when it was on the ground.
Totally, yeah. I think you could have given it the benefit of the doubt that it got down, but you can't do that. When they sent it up,
how we operate.
When they sent it up for no try, and that's what I said. If it went up as a try, it stays a try, in my opinion, as well. I don't think you can definitively say that was held up.
Yep.
So look, and again, everyone's going at Nick Barry for one of the worst ref games, and I don't think he reffed that poorly. Like, I'm not a big Nick Barry fan, but I think he reffed the game pretty well, and I don't, even the TMO, like we just said there, I don't think he made a wrong decision. Just obviously a butthurt Hurricanes fan we're gonna react like that, and especially when it's Ardie Savea, our golden child's last game for a year, we were hopeful for more. But that was the game that everyone kind of said that if there was going to be a game that you didn't know what way was going to go and you didn't know who was going to win, it was going to be that game. So, I mean, look, a good season for my Hurricane lads. A lot more, I think, positives come from it again. I think we've actually taken a better step than last year. Sitting here in this position last year when we had lost to the Brumbies in the quarterfinal, there was a lot less, I think, to be looking forward to. I think a lot of the younger players stood up. Brandon Iose, Devin Flanders, obviously losing Ardie Savea is going to be huge, but we're pretty stacked in the loose forward trio. So I'm still very hopeful. Cam Roigard, I thought, absolutely played another blinder. Just the way he controlled the game, his boot was massive. He did some things I don't think a lot of halfbacks in the world can do, and is definitely putting his hand up for an All Black jersey. But saying that, we were robbed, cheated, rugby sucks.
Yes.
Yep. And I was just like having to hear those Aussie commentators, and I was watching it, and I couldn't stop moving. I was pacing about in those last 5 minutes, and it was like we're attacking the line, and then. Yep.
Them's the breaks.
Well,
we've got two good semi-finals coming up, though.
Exactly.
We've got the Crusaders and the Blues again. This time, though, with home field advantage swapped. So last year's finals, it was the Blues hosting the Crusaders, but now we've got the Crusaders at. Then we got the Blues at the Crusaders. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Blues hosted Crusaders last year. Crusaders host Blues this year. Easy.
Yep.
And yeah, another explosive one. I think. I mean, I don't think you can doubt the Crusaders at this point. I think you'd be very. It's like, yeah, the Blues are a really good team, but it's like the smart money, the trends, the analytics, everything is there that would point to a Crusaders win in that one.
Yeah, it's very hard to win in Christchurch. We've seen that, the Suva Fortress attempt to go over and not get it done.
Yeah.
However, the Blues, I think, are at their best. Like, they've peaked at the right time. They've played two of the best games back to back, and then the Crusaders, the only thing that'll stop them is injuries. They finished with 13 men on the field at the end of last week. They, I guess, limped to a finish line. Richie Mo'unga, in slight doubt, had some cramp, but struggling with locks, struggling with loosies at the moment.
Yeah.
And prop forwards, as we saw with John Afoa. So, a couple more injuries or anything like that, and players don't make it back. They could be in some real trouble. I see what you're saying. I'm actually tipping the Blues. I think the Blues go down there and get revenge. I think, look, Richie Mo'unga is in the best form. I thought he played his best game last week, absolutely tore them apart. I think it'll come down to the kicking battle, and I think the Blues won the kicking battle against the Tahs, and with San Sullivan at fullback and what he can do with his long boot, I really see the Blues as a team that can go in there and beat the Crusaders. I think if any team was likely to do it, I think this Blues team can. Second game, all four teams are the same teams in the semi-finals last year, just a bit of a different order. The Brumbies head across to Hamilton, play the Chiefs. They were unlucky in Auckland last time.
Yeah.
Can they turn it around this time, my friend?
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. It's going to be very, very tough for them. They're seeming to go in with a bit of confidence, which is good. It's good to have that confidence, but look, they lost to him not 3 weeks ago, and that was in Canberra as well. So I just don't know.
I think I'm very similar. I it's not as close as the Hurricanes one is. I was like 50-50. I think it's about 60-40 split. I don't think it's as wide open as people think it is.
Yeah.
With the Crusaders, with the Chiefs versus the Brumbies, but that's on the back of the Chiefs' form in the past few weeks. They haven't peaked as much as we've seen the Blues and the Crusaders peak, in my opinion. I know they beat the Brumbies over in Canberra, which is a really good result. But to me, I think it's up for grabs. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people are. And I think if there's any team that can do it from Australia, it's going to be the Brumbies. And I think they're gonna hang in there 100%. Like they did last year against the Blues. And I think it'll be.
And you think they'll get robbed by a call again?
No, not that game. I think Noah Lolesio will try a drop kick from 30 metres out and stub it across the ground again. Well, Jack Debrasini played very, very well against the Canes, I thought. So it'll be interesting what Larkham goes, because Lolesio only saw the field for about 12 minutes. It'll be really interesting the team that the Brumbies select and Larkham goes with. But I think the Chiefs win and I think the Blues win, and we have a Blues-Chiefs final in Hamilton. Really interesting, though, they just released the figures of semi-final crowds from the European competition. So the top 14 in France just had like 79,000 for both of their semi-finals was the average.
Wow.
The URC average was 78,000. The Premiership was like 24,000 or something. I wonder what it's going to be here. Now, I know the Crusaders Stadium can only hold like 20 or so thousand. I think they can get up to 24, 25. I imagine that'll be a sellout, and I think Hamilton can only hold about 28,000. So just really interesting. I thought that, you had the French, who are gun rugby team at the moment and definitely getting a whole lot of support. Biggest sport other than football in that country. And then you had, the URC with the South Africans bringing in a massive crowd. It's just another call out, I guess, to Super Rugby, and I guess the lack of people in New Zealand, probably not as big as a commercial investment. But I just thought that was interesting to point out. Now, Hughesy, you've talked about your Tahs a lot, but what I want is I want to see what your backline is for your Tahs next year? Obviously, the big Suaalii is coming in. Where does he slot in? Where does Jorgensen slot in? What would your team look like? I can start for you. Jake Gordon at 9 because he's a rugby player.
Jake Gordon at 9. 10, probably Edmed or Donaldson, one of the two. Depends on who stays, who goes.
Say Donaldson stays, you're probably putting him at 10.
Put Donaldson then.
If he goes, Edmund.
Yeah. And I'm going to do the centres next because that's easy as well. Feketi, Parisi. Easy. Sorted, done. One wing, Noaka Tuasi. Sorted, done. Where it comes down between Jorgensen and Suaalii is fullback and wing. One of them will be fullback, one of them will be wing. Personally, I think Suaalii will be wing and Jorgensen fullback. That's my belief. Jorgensen's been in the system longer. He is a proven sort of defender, I guess. In these last couple of weeks, we've seen how the defense has fallen apart without him there. I think he works well on there. And I think Suaalii gives you a really good attacking weapon on the wing. But he also gives you versatility for if Jorgensen goes out injury, he can slip back to fullback and you put Peach in on that wing as well. So I think Suaalii starting on the wing is maybe I think it maximizes the attack you can get out of all the players because I think Suaalii's got a bigger frame and build than what Jorgensen does, which lends itself to the wing, stretching over the try line and making a break down there. And he's got some more weapons there. And I think Jorgensen might be a bit safer at the back. That's just my initial feeling off of it without seeing them in any games together or anything like that. That's sort of what I feel.
Do you not think it's a slight waste of talent with Suaalii just on the wing rather than at the fullback? Yeah. Like, again, Jorgensen is as good as he was. We saw as soon as he moved to fullback to, the real ability he had with the offloads and everything like that. I just think, in my opinion, I think you're wasting a bit of Suaalii's talent there. And Jorgensen's can play wing. We've seen that as well. So, but again, like you said,
I'll tell you what I've said there might not be how it ends, how the season ends. That'll be 100% how it starts, though, because that's how it was with Jorgensen at the start of this year. They put him on the wing because, the Kurtley Beale situation necessitated him coming to the squad earlier, but they didn't want to play him at fullback straight away. They wanted him to get used to the speed of the game, used to Super Rugby speed of the game. I think for Suaalii, it'll be the same thing. The last time he played union was schoolboy level, right? He's been in the NRL since then, and we know it's a totally different beast because even blokes like Tuivasa-Sheck take a while to get adjusted to union, right? And he was a Dahlia medalist. So they'll put him, I think, on the wing first. Week 1, I would be shocked if Suaalii is fullback over Jorgensen. I would be shocked.
Yeah, he'd have to do something pretty special, I guess, to get that spot. Shall we move on then to what
I think even Izzy Folau actually started on the wing before moving to fullback when he joined the Waratahs.
Just a quick shout: could you see his future at centre, outside centre as well?
Yeah, I could see him basically anywhere from the centres to the outside backs. I think maybe halfback first 5, not it, but I think he's got enough versatility to play anywhere in that back line. Yeah. And I think that's his real strength, is it gives the Waratahs, it gives you, yes, it's a bit of a waste of talent to have him out on the wing, but that's assuming everyone's fully healthy. And how many times has the Waratahs backline been fully healthy this year? So it gives you, he can then move into those plays, and you've got Peach, a perfect backup place to just take his wing spot, and you're not dropping off that much. But then when you slide Suaalii into one of those other positions where you've got loss of talent, it's great. And that's not to say that Joey Walton, I actually think he's done a really good job in relief of Feketi and Parisi, both playing inside and outside centre. Tuipolotu, mixed bag, I think, but potential there. But yeah, having someone like Suaalii be able to step into one of those positions, step into fullback if Jorgensen goes out, because we know Jorgensen's got a bit of a slighter frame, it gives you that. It gives you an extra option, So, and it's the same thing. Even if Coleman thinks, all right, look, I want to put Suaalii at fullback and Jorgensen at wing, same thing then. But I think if you have Suaalii on the wing, I don't think Jorgensen could play center as well as Suaalii could play center. Sure, so because Suaalii is a broader jigsaw piece, having him on the wing means that he can cover. It's less of a shift of your back line, because then say Suaalii's fullback, Jorgensen's wing, and one of your centers go down. You move Suaalii off the wing into the
fullback into centre, and then Jorgensen
exactly out of fullback into centre, Jorgensen out of wing. Yeah, exactly. So you're moving 3 pieces instead of 2. Yeah.
Not a bad shout. And it'll be interesting to see how, like you said, the season starts. I think that'll set the tone. something I quickly wanted to discuss on was just opening up the Super Rugby comp. Seeing another article on this, and there's actually been talk of a draft has actually heightened recently.
Yeah.
And I think, like we say, the only way a draft works is if you do open up the comp, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And where you go, if you're an All Black, you can go and play for Melbourne, or even if you're an All Black, Sever Reece really wanted to represent the Drua, and he could go over there and still play for the All Blacks, and just still give back to his community. How cool is that for an idea as well for those guys who've come over a bit earlier, crack the All Blacks, and then want to help out their community, still be able to play for the All Blacks. So in my mind, it's just it also opens this idea to Moana Pacifica, if they have players who do qualify for the All Blacks or the Wallabies, it's not such a big deal that they're, playing for Moana Pacifica, because the whole competition is open. So to me, it just, everything we're heading, it makes more sense. I understand the reason we've got it at the moment, but when it's the same competition, and when because we've lost the South African sides, it's a local competition, it just, to me, makes sense. And I think you'd put a limit on international players and stuff like that. But a good example that came from this article was Pablo Malteira, was here last year. You have, I think it's John Ryan for the Chiefs from Ireland. You've got Freddie Burns down at the Highlanders from England. What's the difference if Geordie Barrett went and played for the Melbourne Rebels? Why not when it's doing that? And say you put 4 or 5. I don't think it's that the worst thing, and everyone's like, but it'll dilute the Australian talent. I actually think if they're playing with better players, they'll get better. And to me, it would actually make the Bledisloe games double up with intensity, because you could have, Geordie Barrett at inside centre and an Andrew Callaway at outside centre for the Rebels, and then all of a sudden at Bledisloe time, they're absolutely cracking into each other, like the old mate against mate from State of Origin. So I don't know, 100%. Just another thing. I'm we're close. We're getting better. I think Super Rugby is it's obviously not a finished product, especially Super Rugby Pacific, but I do think we are getting better. Shall we jump on the coach's corner quickly?
Yes.
As we've done every week for the past 2 weeks. Let's talk about, firstly, Rob Petty, former Waratahs coach, who coached them to, a 0 out of 5 wins in the season before he got sacked, and had a 26% win percentage, is now the new Crusaders coach. Now, we're going to preference this again, preferencing a lot of things on this podcast, but obviously took over the Waratahs, didn't do a very good job, probably a bit of an outsider, came in, wasn't able to get the job done. However, saying that, he has coached at Munster and he coached Canterbury to 4 ITM in New Zealand, the NPC Cup competition. So he's got a pedigree behind him. And I read a really good article. It's for 2 years. With those 2 years is the ideal that he's going to build up those coaching staff around him, which he's going to get a lot of young guys around him. And he's got 2 years to pretty much say, what can you deliver with probably a weaker Crusaders side? No Richie Mo'unga, no Leicester Fainga'anuku, who's absolutely killing it at the moment. A lot of that he's not going to have. Sam Whitelock's gone. So it'll be interesting. Again, is this going to be a blip in the dynasty, or could this be the start of the end for the dynasty?
We hope so.
we do hope so. Even as
we do hope so.
The only time I ever like the Crusaders being good is when the All Blacks are playing. But yeah. Second coach, and I know we're a rugby podcast. We are a rugby podcast, but we're also an Australia-New Zealand podcast. And when you have a coach, end up coaching one of the biggest teams in the world and one of the biggest leagues in the world in a different sport, I think he deserves a mention. So Ange Postecoglou, obviously taking over the Tottenham Hotspurs team, Australian coach, used to coach in the A-League. You see a lot of stuff about him. Celtics, when he first got there and coached them, got ripped apart. No one said he was going to do any good. Did fantastic things. And now going to Tottenham. I'm not a Tottenham fan, but I'm excited for him and this journey. And I just thought it would be a good mention, as you're an Aussie and I live in Australia, that we mentioned the good blokes around us.
I had to actually, when I saw this on the run sheet, I actually had to Google this in case there was something crazy about how does Australian rugby approach Ange Postecoglou or something. I'm like, far out. This,
Well, he could, honestly,
referencing here.
If you've seen his mid-game speeches and team speeches sometimes. He brings some fire and impact, like he builds a good culture. So it wouldn't surprise me if down the line Aussie Rugby just taps him on the shoulder just to help out in a couple of, consultation stuff. But on my new law this time, and I've seen a couple of things, and this is easy. This is an easy new law. We implement it straight away. It doesn't even have to change the rules too much because we're just adding rules, and that's going to make the game easier, and it's going to just add a little bit. So, the first one is names on the back of jerseys. Don't know why this hasn't been done already. Put names on the back of jerseys. It's 11, Julian Savea. As easy as that. Artie Savea on 8. We do that. I don't understand why that hasn't been done yet. You can sell in those jerseys with the numbers on it. I know they don't get to choose the numbers, but I still think names should go on the back.
Yeah.
The second one, which I thought was quite cool, and what they do overseas is they have like stars for how many like European championships or URCs. I think teams should have stars for Super Rugby competitions won in Super Rugby. So the Crusaders should have like 11 stars on their jersey for the amount of Super Rugby competitions they have won. So the Waratahs should have won because, like, when you go to the World Cup, if you've won a World Cup, you've got it on your sleeve is how many World Cups you've won. I just think it's a very simple thing to show, a classy thing to the history of winning Super Rugby tournaments.
I'm with that. There's also one that they do in American football, or they used to do at the Pro Bowls, where you'd have a number of stars for how many Pro Bowls you've been to. Mm-hmm. So I'd almost like to see that for, instead of the clubs, because then every Crusaders player is going to have 11 stars in there, and I don't think those players necessarily earn those 11 stars. I'd like to see stars for how many championships you've won, and in that way, if you do go to a new club, you could get a star on that jersey. You might not have won a championship for that club, but it shows that you've won a championship.
Totally. I don't.
So I think either idea is viable, though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just think some recognition that you've achieved it, and it doesn't have to be around the crest or anything. It could be a simple thing down the side or something like that on the shoulders.
There's a thing. I'm trying to remember what sport it's in. Okay, yeah. So it's actually in football. So that's why France in the World Cup this year had gold numbers on their jersey and a gold badge, to something like that to sort of show who won the championship last year, because at the moment, one of the biggest things with Super Rugby, and we brought up a couple of weeks ago on the podcast when all the Super Rugby coaches flocked to the All Blacks coaching position, it's not that big of a prestige deal to win a Super Rugby competition. And I think adding more prestige to it will make it a more attractive event.
Totally. So, yeah, that's my new law, is just to add names and some form of representation of either Super Rugby's won or championship, they are the title holders, something like that, to make it a bit more special, because I just think we're missing an opportunity there. Now, quickly, last 2 points. I wanted to just quickly mention Fainga'anuku. Now, obviously, he signed a deal with Toulon for the next 2 years. So he will be going to Toulon after this World Cup for 24, comes back at the end of 25. His form at the moment is really interesting because he's playing well enough that he should be selected for the All Blacks come Rugby World Cup time. It'll be interesting how his decision to go overseas and his potential decision to come back, where he has mentioned he is open to coming back, will be taken, because he's playing in obviously a very good league. I think to me it's funny, he's going over and making a really good decision, in my opinion. You look at like someone like Julian Savea, who got towards the end of his career and then went over to Toulon and got into all the tussles with the owner and rah-de-rah-de-rah, and the owner called him out. Fainga'anuku is going to go in at nearly his prime as a 24-year-old, starting to go into his prime, play 2 really good years, probably, get raving reviews when he's there, absolutely kill it, and then we'll come back in 2025 for a push at the 2027 World Cup, is my thinking behind his thinking, unless someone, opens it up to a $2 million world chest and he may just stay there. It gives that idea that he might not come back, but it's really interesting, and I think there's very high potential that he does come back after his 2 years there. So I'm just wondering, will this happen more often? I said this, we're eventually going to get like the Barrett law or the Ioane law or the Fainga'anuku law, where they'll actually go, no, you go and do what you want to do, and we're always here, where the All Blacks will come back to this. Yeah. I'm just interested.
Yeah, it'll be certainly going to be history-making whenever it does happen.
Like, if he's I guess because he's a winger and we have a lot of depth in winger, I think it's going to take, and again, I'm saying Ghetto because, Ghetto first 5, second 5 playmaker extraordinaire. It's going to take something like that to get him across the line. Like, it's not going to be, hey, a winger or a lock maybe could get him across the line. Like, you look at Will Skelton. I don't know. It'll be really interesting when it does eventually happen, or how it happens, or why it happens as well. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't even think by the next World Cup we'll have it happen. I'm thinking 2031 it might start to, depending where professional rugby is at, depending where Super Rugby is at, because we come to our end of the agreement at 2030, I believe. So depending where all that's at, it could be really interesting. You never know, we might have a World Club Rugby League by then. Last point to touch base on, another English Premier club has gone under. London Irish has fallen up, being kicked out of the comp. Going to be really interesting how the Premiership tackles this next year.
Yes.
That's 3 teams now, and obviously Wasps as well. One of the bigger teams, London Irish. It's the 2 London teams failing. Well, I'm not around it enough to know like the ins and outs of English Premiership rugby, but when you see football going so strong in that country, there is something amiss, I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so all to our London Irish supporters out there, best of luck for you. That is us.
That's
Semi-finals this week, and we're only like less than a month away from Rugby Championship kicking off.
Yeah.
So some big games there, and we're only playing. It's a shortened year, so you only play everyone once. Other than obviously we have our Bledisloe, but that's not part of the comp, and that's interesting. So
it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. You want less games, but it'll be a short comp, I can tell you that. But excited nonetheless to see the teams come in. We've seen the South African team get selected, a very strong team from their end.
Yep.
New Zealand and Australia, I'm sure, won't be too far away after /on Super Rugby final time. Any bolters you reckon for that squad for your Wallabies? Putting you on the spot. Maxi J obviously injured, so
yeah, and he'll miss the rugby championship. I actually don't think so. I think this squad pretty much names itself.
Well, that's what I did that form team of the Super Rugby comp for the Australians, and there was 13 guys that had already played for Australia. I think it was Carter Gordon and someone else. Who was it? Don't know. One other player had I selected that hadn't played for the Wallabies yet. So will be interesting what teams get selected. But we will keep you updated week to week, day to day. Follow us on all those good things: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of the TikTok, all that social rubbish. For now, though, thank you for joining me and Hughesy. I've been Luke. That's been Hughesy. We will see you later. Goodbye.
Peace.